Yo, what's up guys, StirPhry here, and today we are showing off my hunt teams. Every stream there is always someone asking me about my hunt teams, which I am always glad to show them, but I was like, heck, why not just make a video about it? So now next stream someone else can come in and ask the exact same question without ever watching this video. Now let's start off here with Wyvern 13. My team is G Purgus, Alexa, TG, and SSB. The G Purgus is a very important part of this team. He's a frontline tank and his passive also allows me to build the rest of my heroes without needing to worry about speed at all. I do have my G Purgus on a very tanky build with Proof of Valor because that's about all you need. He just needs to stand there and get hit for a few rounds and survive long enough. It is preferred that he dies before the shield phase because then he won't push up the Wyvern if he moves. Next up is TG. He can be replaced by other defense breakers like Karin or Luluka. I used to run Karin instead of TG, but I decided to re-gear my Karin for a speed setup for PvP, so I threw TG in there instead. He is pretty easy to gear, you just gotta throw some speed and effectiveness on him and call it a day. If you want, you can include some DPS stats and put him on DDJ to do some actual damage, but instead I have him on Junkyard Dog for the burns so that I can land more debuffs on the Wyvern. Then now I got SSB, she is just another defense breaker and debuffer for the Wyvern. You could replace her with another defense breaker much like you can with TG. My SSB is built for PvP, but she works perfectly fine in this situation because she does have high effectiveness. Because again, all you need her for is the defense break, the target debuff, and whatever else lands on her S3. Now last of all, we do have Alexa as my main DPS. Most people do use Sigrid instead of Alexa because she does do huge damage because of all the debuffs on the Wyvern. However, I do use Alexa instead of Sigrid because I have my Sigrid geared for PvP. Alexa works perfectly fine though, she does do a lot of damage and I have actually found Alexa to be more consistent than Sigrid. My Alexa is on a rage set with DDJ, so she does do a lot of freaking damage and she does work perfectly fine as a 5-star hero. You do not need to 6-star her at all. I ran her as a 5-star for a very long time until recently when I finally 6-starred her. Now Wyvern 13 is by far the most important hunt in my opinion, and it is actually the easiest hunt to do as well. I did do 21 runs with this team and managed to finish all the runs in 44 minutes and 50 seconds, winning 19 out of 21 runs. That's an average of 2 minutes and 8 seconds with a 90% win rate. That's not too bad. Now here is my Golem 13 team, which I'm sure nobody cares about, but I'm gonna show it off anyways. My team is Lilius, Ken, Sol, and Tama. There's definitely a better setup for G13, but this is just what I use and it works for me. Lilius is here as a cleanser, a damage mitigation, but also for the dual attack, which is actually the most important part I think. She's geared very simply with Aureus to keep the rest of my team alive and nothing else is special at all. She just needs a bit of speed and a bit of tankiness as with any other tanks, right? A frontline tank is not needed for this, but because I'm not running a speed team and I'm not very strong, it helps keep it more consistent. And now I have Tamarin as my healer, and when a hunt team has a healer, you know it's not going to be very fast, right? But still not too bad. As you know, she is a very strong healer for PvE content, and her kit works pretty well with this. She does have a cleanse, a heal, a CR push, an attack buff, and most of all, the dual attack. She's geared pretty modestly with some speed, some tank stats, and nothing too special, and she is on Wondrous Potion Vial. You could definitely replace her with someone else like Hazel and it would work pretty much just as well. And now I have Ken here. He is mostly here just for the defense break, and whatever damage he does is pretty much just a bonus. He doesn't do anything too special. You could replace him with any other defense breaker and it would be just as good. A lot of times people do run another DPS instead of a defense breaker because you don't really need a defense break if your other DPS is strong enough. And last of all here I do have Sol. He is my main DPS for this hunt. I think a lot of people do prefer Surmia for this hunt as a main DPS, but my Surmia is geared for speed and PvP, so she doesn't work very well for this because she is not doing as much damage as she could, as well as she is using the wrong EE. She is not using the first one, which does the first attack twice. Now my Sol isn't anything special either. He's just on some regular gear, and that's really all you need to do the job. Golem 13 is probably the most useless hunt out there, and I don't ever run this at all. These 21 runs I did to get this time was actually the most times I've ever run Golem 13 since it came out. But I was able to do these 21 runs in 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 5 seconds. That is an average of 3 minutes and 8 seconds with a 100% win rate, which isn't too bad at all. I'm pretty happy that it was a 100% win rate, and the time isn't actually that high either. Banshee 13, probably the second most important hunt, or the most important hunt, depending on how you look at it, if you want to be like a Banshee gamer or something. Now for Banshee 13, I actually run a 3-man one-shot team. The reason for this is that I actually found it easier to build than a normal 4-man team. For this team, I run Leo, Vivian, and Baiken. You can bring a 4th hero as a fodder, but you have to make sure that that 4th hero is slower than your Baiken is. Now, first of all, we got Leo. He is geared with as little attack and crit rate as possible. He simply needs enough speed and effectiveness to do his job. The reason for his low attack is because I want Vivian doing all the damage, and the reason for the low crit rate is because it helps keep it more consistent. Then next we got Vivian. She has to be geared strong enough to clear the first wave, but not too strong to push the Banshee into the second phase. You need to control her damage very carefully, that is why I have her on Time Matter. This prevents her from using the S1 on the Banshee Queen, which then removes the dual attack RNG chance. If she dual attacks on the Banshee, it will do too much damage and it will push her into the second phase. Vivian must also be on the second EE and geared fast enough to move twice before your Baiken moves once, and also slow enough so that your Leo moves first. And last of all, we have Baiken. She is a lot easier to gear than Vivian as long as you have good enough gear. She just has to be super strong with as much attack and crit damage as possible. If you can stack enough crit damage and attack, you do not need to worry about landing a single bleed on the Banshee, which then cuts down the RNG. Making a 3-man one-shot team for Banshee 13 is a very delicate balancing act, but once you get it worked out, it is actually quite consistent, barring the 15% resist. So I managed my 21 runs in 27 minutes and 19 seconds, winning 17 out of 21 runs. That's an average of 1 minute 18 seconds with an 80% win rate. You would expect it to be 85% because you have that 15% resist, but this was only a sample of 21 runs. I think if you ran it more, it would end up being 85%. And next we have Azimanak 13. The team I run here is Asaria, Vildred, Raz, and Tamarin. Raz isn't used as a damage mitigation here, but instead he is useful because his S1 strips, his S2 has a defense break and a dual attack, and his S3 has a defense buff. My Raz is geared strictly for PvP, but he works perfectly fine in this situation. He's not very hard to gear to be used here. And next we have Tama here as our healer. Again, nothing very special here needs to be done with her. Just give her some speed and some tank stats and she'll do perfectly fine. Her kit does work pretty well here because she does have the strip, the heal, the CR push, and the cleanse. It's pretty much the best healer you can get for this dungeon. And now we have Asaria here. She is used as a defense breaker and a stripper. The unbuffable on her S3 is also very useful because it prevents the boss from getting too mad. Her gear also doesn't need to be anything special, she just needs enough speed and effectiveness for her to land her debuffs and land her strips. You have to make sure that she is not on Song of the Stars because it will land too many debuffs on the boss and she will get super pissed off and she will murder you. And last of all, we have Vildred as our DPS. This is actually the only place and the only time I've ever used Vildred. His kit works very well here because he does have the extra attacks upon a kill as well as an attack buff for himself. And also the fact that he doesn't land any debuffs, which means that you will not end up landing 3 debuffs on the boss. I would rather have him on Dust Devil than Wind Rider, but the fact that I do not have a third max Dust Devil, that is why he is on Wind Rider, but it still works pretty well. Now Azimanak 13 is my slowest hunt, but I did manage to do my 21 runs in 1 hour 47 minutes and 4 seconds, winning only 15 out of 21 runs. That averages to 5 minutes 5 seconds per run with a 71% win rate. It's not too bad, but it could be worse, right? And now last of all, we do have Caides 13, which is actually the hunt people do ask about the most because it is the newest hunt, so it is the most unfamiliar. For this hunt, I do run Tamarin, Luluka, ML Kawana, and Camilla. Now, if you haven't figured it out by now, there's a reason why Tama is considered the PvE queen. She works well in pretty much every single hunt. The only hunt you can't use her in right now, I think, is Wyvern, because she does work for Banshee, I think. Now again, Tama's kit does work very well here because she has the heal, she has the attack buff, and she has the cleanse. Again, she is the best PvE healer out there. Now, if you don't have Tama, Rowana actually works pretty well for this hunt, and I did use her before, but I decided to switch her up for Tama because, well, Tama just works better. And now we got Luluka. Her kit works very well here as well because she does have a defense break on the S1 and the S3, as well as having a non-attack skill that is actually useful. She has the defense buff and the barrier for her entire team. You can gear Luluka up for damage and put her on DDJ, but instead I have her as more of a utility hero with Bloody Rose because I want the extra effectiveness, and the Vampiric Touch is actually quite useful. I also have her on the first EE so that she gets more chances to land the defense break. And next up we do have Camilla. I used to use Sirmia instead of Camilla in the slot, but because my Sirmia is geared for PvP, she does not do as much damage as she could. Now, running Camilla in this slot actually works better for me because she does do good damage, as well as her kit does provide an attack buff and a non-attack skill and a dual attack. You'd actually be pretty surprised as to how well she actually works here. And now the last hero I have is the most obvious hero, and it is Kawana. Her entire kit was designed for this hunt. Her passive stacks on dual attacks, which there are plenty of in this hunt, and she also has a non-attack skill which helps out the entire team as well as herself. Her S1 also has the restrict, which is very useful on the boss. I think you could probably replace her with a Lucy or something like that. I think there are like some other heroes with the restrict such as a Ricarus or something, but Kawana definitely works the best. Kawana is also my main damage dealer here. I think she would benefit very much from DDJ, but because I don't want to level up another DDJ, I am just using a border coin on her because she does have a non-attack skill, so it does stack. Now this isn't my fastest hunt, but I'm pretty happy with the time, and I did manage 21 runs in 1 hour 19 minutes and 35 seconds, winning 18 out of 21 runs. This averages to 3 minutes 36 seconds per run with an 86% win rate. It is better than it was before, so I'm pretty happy with it. And now again, these probably aren't the best and fastest teams out there for hunts. If you want an actual guide on building teams, you can refer to other E7 content creators such as Grass Angel. He does some pretty funny builds. Dr. Squirrel, he's smart about everything, same as Car, Mango, and Astronauts. So yeah, these are my hunt teams. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below or join the Discord and we'll try to help you out. But I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like and subscribe. Thank you for hanging out with us, and I'll see you guys next time, man. Bye.